Did you watch the Republican presidential debates this week? Not the one that was with Tucker Carlson. I mean the one that was held in Milwaukee. Well, if you did, you're probably like me and you're wondering,
who the heck is this skinny guy with a funny last name, and what the heck is he doing in the middle of this debate stage?
And you probably took a liking to him. Right now, the Republican Party, the America First movement, if you will, is suffering mixed emotions. So I wanted to talk a little bit about Vivek tonight and share my thoughts. Absolutely the most Google searched candidate in the history of the Republican Party or Democrat Party's primary debates. And Vivek had everyone looking for his head the other night. He challenged Nikki Haley, called her a globalist. Talked about her having potential board memberships with Raytheon.
I wish you well in your future career on the boards of Lockheed and Raytheon.
He talked about Mike Pence.
We live in a dark moment, and we have to confront the fact that we're in an internal, sort of cold cultural civil war.
And we have to recognize the American people with the failed government in Washington, D.C. We just need government as good as our people again.
Let's just speak the truth, okay?
And how Mike Pence was, speaking with hopium and talking about the great things and failing to acknowledge the fact that the country's in turmoil. He went after Chris Christie and had a pretty sharp retort when Chris Christie accused him of being another Obama-type candidate or sounding like ChatGPT.
And Chris Christie, honest to God, your claim that Donald Trump is motivated by vengeance and grievance would be a lot more credible if your entire campaign were not based on vengeance and grievance against one man. And if people at home want to see a bunch of people blindly bashing Donald Trump without an iota of vision for this country, they could just change the channel to MSNBC right now.
He was pretty effective when he went after Ron DeSantis, when Governor DeSantis used the famous Trump, you're fired line when he was talking about Anthony Fauci. If you heard the quip, and I'll play it for you, Vivek had a pretty snarky remark saying, you're such a bad boy, Anthony.
You bring Fauci in, you sit him down, and you say, Anthony, you are fired.
You're a bad boy, Anthony.
Well, why did he say that, right? Well, he said that because he knows that President Trump didn't have the power to fire a protected civil or federal civil employee like Fauci. But DeSantis is going to say that to voters because it sounds great. He went after Pence because Pence, like many other establishment Republicans, focus too much on the false positives and the country's great. And we know this, right? But the country isn't functioning to its greatest potential. And that's what Vivek is trying to describe. And he went after Chris Christie because Christie's a liar, right? Christie is, saying that, the entire campaign or the entire presidential election shouldn't be about President Trump, but all he's doing is talking about his despise of Trump. And he went after Haley because Haley, like many other establishment Republicans, are backing the war in Ukraine and ignoring the general public, and with the majority of us believing that the American taxpayers shouldn't be funding foreign wars when we can't secure the borders of our own country and take care of our own that are living in poverty or living in hardship. What stood out to me the most, other than Vivek being willing to stand up and say these things that need to be said, is the fact that he had tremendous insight on some of these issues. Generally speaking, first-time candidates don't really understand the ins and outs of politics and what it's like to campaign. And I think he showed some pretty astute knowledge on these issues, which is refreshing because a lot of times for first-time candidates, and I know this because I experienced it, the learning curve is pretty steep and nobody wants to help you. They only want to help you if you're paying them a lot of money. That's just, it hinders good candidates from running for office. The other thing that stood out to me is the response that he got, the looks. That to me is telling. I mean, Chris Christie essentially accused him of never doing anything for this country, and almost treated him like a peasant, like he didn't deserve to be on that stage because he'd never served in public office before.
I know a lot better than you do. You've never done it, like you've never done anything to try to advance the interests of this government except to put yourself forward as a candidate tonight.
That to me is a depiction of the attitude and the animus that these politicians have for the average everyday American. They truly don't believe that we're their equivalent. They don't understand that the Constitution has absolutely zero requirement when running for president to have served in office somewhere. And that's something that they need to be reminded of, and I think Vivek did a hell of a job doing so. I laughed my ass off when I watched him go after Mike Pence and go after Nikki Haley and go after Chris Christie with absolutely no pause.
I think we do need somebody of a different generation to lead this nation forward. Look at the way I've run this campaign. We have an opportunity to build a multi-ethnic, working-class majority to deliver a landslide, and I think I'm the only candidate in this race, young or old, black or white, to bring all of those voters along to deliver a Reagan 1980 revolution.
Some of the things I'm seeing online is just a perpetuation of some of the things that were said about him during the debate. Number one, he's getting some pretty harsh attacks from a lot of Democratic websites, such as the Daily Beast, right? They're saying that Republicans generally agreed one thing, that they hated Vivek Ramaswamy, which obviously this is just another example of left-wing propaganda, because I would say the majority of people that I've talked to either like him or they're cautiously optimistic about him. I think we can all agree that he has absolutely no chance winning the Republican nomination. However, he's serving, or he is playing a role in providing a service to those that are supporting the obvious nominee in President Trump, because he is causing the other candidates not to gain traction. He's really hurt the numbers of Governor DeSantis, and I think the longer he stays in the race, the more effective he's going to be.
And I will not let you down.
What he was doing there. What are you doing here, Ron? Why are you here? It was a mess.
And the left, obviously, they attack those that they're afraid of. That's traditional Democratic MO. But what I'm seeing online too is there's a lot of back and forth about Vivek Ramaswamy having accepted scholarships from the Soros Foundation that paid for his college. And I looked into that a little bit, and he's made some claims and he's defended himself. And I, like him and probably many of you, grew up in poverty, and if someone wanted to pay for my college tuition to Yale, I probably would have accepted it. In fact, I went to the military. One of the reasons I joined the military is because I couldn't afford to pay for college, and it was never expected of my parents to pay for it because they just financially couldn't do that. And the other thing to think about is, back in early 2002, 2003, or whenever he, did begin to attend college, nobody knew who the hell George Soros was, right? We were in Iraq fighting a war, thinking George Bush was going after weapons of mass destruction. We were, an extremely patriotic nation at that point, and fighting terrorism across the globe. No one was thinking about George Soros and the things that he would be involved in over the next 5 to 10 years with respect to our country's politics. So that aside, there's people saying that he used and borrowed a line from Obama, which obviously they're trying to compare and contrast him to Obama.
Moment of hope and don't lose yourself in the music the moment you own it. That was
and yo, the mic drops.
How good is that? You think that's going viral?
I say when you dig into the guy's background, from what I heard, he sounded extremely legitimate, like he's speaking from the heart. I looked into his political beliefs. It says that he's been a libertarian for most of his life, and he voted for President Trump in 2020. He also says that throughout his adult life he's only voted a couple times, and that was a problem with a lot of people. But again, I think that's what makes him human. I personally, I hadn't voted in every election. In fact, I wasn't a registered Republican until I decided to run for office, and the only reason why I chose to be a Republican is because I can align more with the Republican Party's political beliefs. But I think many libertarians, they found ourselves siding with the Republican Party, and Donald Trump brought a lot of libertarians to the Republican Party. A lot of us were just homeless politically, and many of us found politics because of Trump. So I think that's surface level BS that is being taunted by groups of people that are continually suspicious, and they're suspicious because that's the state of our politics today. It's unfortunate, but it's the reality. I just wish it wouldn't hurt a candidate like this that is obviously bright, obviously believes in what he's doing, and obviously is compassionate for the country, and moving away from this country club Republican-esque way of politics. It's not representative of the people, and I think Vivek has a pretty distinct pulse on how people are feeling right now. I mean, the guy's going to Philadelphia, he's going to Chicago, he's going to places that Republicans generally don't go, and he's talking to everybody. I mean, he's been on CNN, MSNBC, he's talked to the Breakfast Club, he's rapped Eminem at the Iowa Iowa Fair. I mean, he's doing things that just come natural to him. I guess I can understand that. I did a rap video for during my campaign, and quite embarrassing if I do say so myself, but I did it, and I did it for the right reasons, right? I didn't do it to be a rapper or to be famous. I just did it because friends asked me to be in their video. So I don't know. It's Vivek is a pretty unique guy, and unfortunately he's battling it out right now with a swing that is so hard and so fast for Donald Trump. He absolutely stands no chance. But I think we owe it to ourselves, and we owe it to guys like this to really take our own unbiased look into them before we just believe in what we read on the internet. Number one, the guy wouldn't go on stage and attack these establishment politicians and talk about the fact that they're bought and paid for by super PACs.
Do you want a super PAC puppet, or do you want a patriot who speaks the truth?
Which they are. He wouldn't do that if he was an establishment guy. The establishment guys want to be backed by super PACs. It's the easiest way to raise money. And he wouldn't be challenging Republicans that are embedded very, very, very deep into the political machine. I mean, like it or not, Nikki Haley, Mike Pence, Chris Christie, they're all extremely embedded, and they have significant influence when it comes to these elections. Not as much for themselves as they do others, but they certainly do have influence. And he's talking about their age. He's talking about their disconnection with the American people. He's really saying things that I hear not only in my head, but on a day-to-day basis when I'm talking to other conservatives and Republicans, libertarians that I know. So Vivek Ramaswamy, the man, the myth, the legend, quickly becoming a Republican phenom, and I look forward to hearing more from him. I think he has a lot to offer, and I would just ask, if you're on the fence about Vivek, take a look into him off of Twitter and see what you can find. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised that he's a young man who worked pretty darn hard and is a very successful entrepreneur who just by happenstance took money from a group of people that we would find out to be what we consider a public enemy 20 years down the line. So that's all I got.
The latest morning consult poll has us far ahead. We're at 59%, and the others are at like 12. One is at 12. I think that's the sanctimonious, but he's rapidly being caught by Ramaswamy. Who's good?